The Toronto Maple Leafs have officially forced a Game 7 back in Boston. And like Joe Bowen said, he put it best, we are shipping up to Boston. We're going back to Boston for a Game 7. The Toronto Maple Leafs give us hope once again. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And for those of you who haven't seen the channel before, we've noticed that about 80% of you watching our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Toronto Maple Leafs. And it's going to be interesting because just a few days ago, I feel like some fans were ready to pack it in on the season. Not the case. They have forced a Game 7. Pretty shocking, I think. Pretty shocking and a fun game. Really good game. We'll pop up the stats in a second. Not a fun game, actually, for the first half of it, just because doubt starts to creep in a little bit where you're like, all right, this is going to be one of those games where the Leafs completely outshoot the Bruins and then the Bruins get like a weird goal and that'll be it. But not the case. Speaking of weird goals, right at the end, I think the final score was officially 2-1. Odd. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in here. Great crowd on hand so far. If you have any questions or thoughts, please put them in the chat box. I'll get to them at some point. We'll go through the stats and stuff first, but please throw any thoughts or questions in the chat box, and I'll be sure to get to them. Let's get right into the game stats. Great game from a lot of play. Like, the entire Leafs team really, I thought, bought in for this game, and we saw the whole thing this morning with Sheldon Keefe holding a little bit of a meeting at the end of morning skate, which he normally never does, which was great to see as well. And obviously, he had that great pregame speech that he had that they showed on Sportsnet as well, trying to get the guys pumped up. They all know what needs to be done, so that was great. Simone Benoit, we're going to hit it very quickly because I just noticed it. The Simone Benoit train, ladies and gentlemen. We've been on the Simone Benoit train all season. 9 hits tonight, laying the absolute boom, making it very difficult for guys like Marchand to do anything, and David Pastrnak for that reason. Not that they were matched up the entire game, but I did notice that he was making life very, very difficult for Marchand. So an unsung hero so far this season for sure. And then a lot of ice time. How about John Tavares too? I mean, only 20 minutes tonight, but since Matthews has gone down, he's been playing a lot of time on ice and thought he's been pretty good in this series too. Honestly, pretty solid. Like, yes, he's not scoring, but pretty solid, playing a good matchup game. And he's been great. He's been great. So, you know, what can you say about John Tavares? I think he's been pretty good in this series. Would love for him to score, but he was kind of indirectly involved in that goal that Nylander scored, the first one. So that was great. We'll get to some questions in a second and some thoughts. Please put them in the chat box if you have any. Great game from the Leafs. 2-1 win, I think, officially in Game 6. They're forcing Game 7 in Boston. And how perfect is this, that you get another Game 7 after you were down 3-1 in Boston, and you have an opportunity to finally slay the Dragon. Like, there's no better opportunity than this. There's absolutely no better opportunity than this for the Toronto Maple Leafs to finally get over whatever this is, right? Absolutely none. And the Bruins, I mean, last year this happened to them too. Like, you know that they're nervous. They played nervous. Look at the first half of the game. They had one shot, right? Like, they are playing nervous. So the Leafs are playing with a lot of confidence right now. And like Nylander said before the game, I mean, they're just playing. They have nothing to lose. And I think that's sometimes a good spot to be in. So it'll be great. It'll be great. Saturday night, Game 7 in Boston. That is crazy. It's going to be amazing. And without Matthews too. I mean, Austin Matthews obviously has been really important to the Leafs all season. Goes down with an illness, and then hasn't played since coming out in Game 4 or Game 5, I should say. Last game was Game 4. Comes out because of the illness, and then obviously, as we've kind of learned throughout the day, and we did a video on it earlier, Nick and I, that seems like he probably sustained some type of injury, but obviously we won't find out about it until after the playoffs are done or the Leafs are eliminated, whichever one comes first. Hopefully it's the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup, but let's just focus on Game 7 for one. But Austin Matthews, hopefully, I don't know what's the protocol here. If he's not I shouldn't say 100%, but if he's really not ready to go, I mean, you kind of feel a little bit confident leaving him out now because they've been playing so well without him. But I wouldn't say you leave him out in, just because. Like, if he's ready to go, he's playing. But I don't think he'll be back for a little bit. He probably won't be back unless they make round 2, like at this point. It just seems like if he's not playing, Matthew strikes me as a guy who wants to be out there and he's a warrior. He battles. And I cannot believe the narrative that's happening right now where people are saying that he's quit or he's faking something. And that narrative is insane to think like that, because he is an athlete. He's one of the better players in the league. And like he obviously wants to be out there. So the fact that he's not playing, it's pretty significant injury. But anyway, everything at this point is all speculation with Austin Matthews. But thank you everyone for tuning in. The Leafs win Game 6, I think officially 2-1. It's kind of weird at the end. I think it's officially a 2-1 score. Pretty upsetting for Joseph Woll, who we'll get to in a second. Been fantastic for the Leafs. Revelation. I'll use that word, revelation. And yeah, I mean, what is there to say about the Toronto Maple Leafs? They are, I don't know, they're playing with house money. And like I said, like it's a good spot to be in. Okay, first here, we'll start getting into questions. Everyone, send some questions or any thoughts you have, and I'll be sure to get to that stuff, and we'll get some good conversation going here. We had great conversation after Game 5 as well. That was fantastic. So, Darius, if the Leafs make round 2, does Keefe get fired? The only situation here, this would be a monumental comeback, by the way, if they were to move on to round 2, which is definitely possible at this point. It comes down to one game now. And if you ask me, the momentum has shifted to the Leafs. But again, we haven't seen a track record where we think that they maybe could win this Game 7. But what better time than to shift the narrative than now and really slay the dragon? But anyway, if they make it to round 2, if the same type of things happen and they lose to Florida with the same mistakes in terms of they lose the series themselves, like they're not beat by another team, they lose the series themselves, then yes, I do believe he's gone. But if he's able to take them to the second round and they play well, I think that it's still a conversation you have to have. After Game 4, I was kind of already mentally, I'm like, okay, what are they going to do after Keefe? Because I feel like I like Keefe, and I think he's a good head coach. And if he ever does leave Toronto or get fired, I think he would do really well elsewhere. But the fact of the matter is you have to try something different at some point. Like if they did lose to the Bruins in this series, maybe not. It's still a conversation you have to have if the Leafs lose in 7. But if they did lose in, let's say, 5 games, right, you have to make a change. You just do. You do the same thing over and over again. Nothing will change. You just will have to make a change. So, yeah, I think you just have to be Leaf. I think somebody put it in the chat earlier. You just have to be Leaf at this point, because here they are. They are presented an opportunity where, again, they were down 3-1 to the Boston Bruins, which has happened twice in the last 3 times now, I guess, in the last 4 playoff series that they've played since 2013. So they're given an opportunity once again to finally take it. Here it is. Take it. You were down 3-1 once again. And just rip it out of their hands, finally. Just do it. So, I don't know. I do think that they can do it. I love the lineup changes tonight, by the way. I did mention, I've loved Reeves all year. And I love what he's done in the playoff series so far. And I think he's played really well the second half of the season. But I love the lineup decision tonight. I think the games are getting a little tighter where you maybe don't need Reeves. And I think the team's been playing very physical without him anyway. So I did like that lineup decision to take him out. Not that I don't like Reeves. I just think it's getting tight. And you have to have guys that you know you can rely on in there. So I did like that. And if we lose in 7, then it's the coach's fault for not putting a Woll. I guess you can make that argument as well. But everyone has to remember the consensus coming into this playoff series was Samsonov has to start because he's been so good, except for the last 4 games of the regular season-ish. Last 4 games-ish. But the general consensus was Samsonov has to come in and be the starter because he's earned it and he's played better than Woll all season after Woll got injured, right? But when you look at it now, I've talked about it on the last stream and I've talked about it in previous videos. Your team's attitude and play style comes through the goaltender, I feel like. And Woll is just so much more patient and poised than Samsonov. He is. It's just a fact of the matter. He just is more patient and poised, and it comes through the rest of the team. And he's been great. He's been brilliant. Like, and yes, he didn't get the shutout tonight officially, I guess. I actually haven't checked the box score officially, but I think it was 2-1 final. But anyway, he stood on his head. He's made the difference so far in these last 2 games. He's made a big difference. He's given them a chance to win, and then they went out and get the goals that they need. It's been great. So we'll take a look here again. And William Nylander, for as much slack as he's gotten earlier in his Maple Leafs career about being soft, we all know the narrative around him, what it was at the beginning. He has completely flipped that on his head. 2 goals again tonight. He is their playoff performer. He is their playoff performer, this guy. And I love the fact that he's locked up still, and he's going to be a Leaf for a long time. I think he's a great player. He made a great move on the breakaway to score to make it 2-0, and they really needed that insurance goal. As we see now, they absolutely needed that insurance goal, and he's made a big difference, I think, since coming in. He didn't score in the last game, but I thought, and even Game 4 was just a write-off for the entire team. But I thought he played really, really well last game. Eye test, again, I thought he played well. But tonight made a big difference, made a huge difference. So he's been great. Making it to Game 7 and losing, it's like being swept and not making the playoffs. I think that is objectively not true, actually. But that is actually objectively not true. Keefe intentionally put Woll against Boston when he came back from injury. I do remember that. And I wonder if that was a test because Boston was really rolling at that time in the season. I do remember that. And I think the Leafs lost. Well, obviously the Leafs lost that game. That's right. They didn't win a game against Boston this year until the playoffs. And now they're rolling a little bit. But I thought that was an intentional test just to see what he had. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Samsonov wasn't playing well at that point of the season. But we'll focus on playoffs. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in again. The Leafs win Game 6 and force a Game 7 against the Boston Bruins back in Boston on Saturday night. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And if you have any questions or thoughts, please put them in the chat box. I'll be sure to get to them at some point in the stream. We'll get some conversation going here. It'll be great. And is Woll from Mendy, is Woll going to start Game 7? Yes, because if he didn't, that means there's either an injury or somebody absolutely is asking to get fired. So, yes, he is playing Game 7 100%. There's no other option for the Leafs. There's absolutely no other option. But yeah, Leafs win. The vibes are high. The vibes are high, everyone. Let's get a Go Leafs Go in the chat if we can. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in once again. Let's get a Go Leafs Go. And Nylander is slowly becoming, I think, personally, one of my favorite Maple Leafs on the team. It's always been pretty much Matthews in this era because I guess that's an easy choice. And he scores all the goals, and he's a really, really good player. But Nylander, in moments like this, always comes up huge. Love it. He always comes up big in these moments. Oh, and we have wow. Thank you, Paul. Our first super chat of the night on the stream. All's Wall that ends well. Thank you so much, Paul, for the donation. Go Leafs Go. Game 7 to determine who is the greatest choke artist of all time will be. I hope it's Boston. I love it. I love it. That's hilarious. Thank you, Paul. And honestly, this Game 7 is for the loser will win the undisputed universal championship of choking. Really, that's what it'll be. Because the Bruins could back-to-back years give up 3-1 to Leeds, which is horrible. And then the Leafs could once again lose another Game 7 in Boston, which we haven't even thought about that nightmare scenario. And I haven't put much thought behind it because the Leafs have the momentum riding into Game 7. Hopefully they can slay the dragon this time. That'd be great. But yeah, I love that. That was a great comment. Thank you, Paul, for the super chat. That was fantastic. And hopefully it is the Bruins. Let's hope. This is a Leafs-centric channel. We love the Leafs. Go Leafs Go. And hopefully it is the Bruins that lose and the Leafs can ride this momentum and finally slay the dragon in Game 7. That'd be fantastic. I would love that. So Marner is great, but he is too small to go through a player to make a play. Yes, playoffs. Sorry, I shouldn't say yes off the bat. I'll break down your comment. Marner has a specific skill set, which I think is great and can be useful, but we've seen that sometimes it gets nerfed in the playoffs where he's not able to find that free space and that time, right? Because everyone's closing so quickly in the playoffs. So I do think he's a great player, but sometimes in the playoffs that his skill set isn't being used appropriately, I guess, because he's not able to. And sometimes when he dumps the puck in, the guy comes running interference, which happens all the time in the playoffs, never going to get called. So yeah, I don't think he's necessarily playing horribly. Like, he's not playing horribly, especially the last 2 games. He is playing a lot of matchups as well. He's matched up against Pastrnak and stuff like that, and Pastrnak hasn't scored, and that's great for the Leafs. That's fantastic. So yeah, not Nylander. Marner has necessarily been bad, but I think there's another level he can find to kind of break through things, and I hope he does still find it. But again, time and time again, the last couple of years, you see that when as the series go on, his point totals kind of come down and he kind of goes away because his skill set does not lend to when the whistles go away and all that stuff. And the Leafs power play, I mean, even if the whistles were out, the Leafs power play is horrendous. Nylander, the hero, once again, brilliant move on the breakaway. Like, yes, he gets the first goal and it was like, you got to get bodies in front, right? And it's going to hit something. That's great. That's playoff hockey. Brilliant move on the breakaway. And great play from Nyes to get him the puck there. Did you guys see that? Where he shielded the puck using his body? This guy, power forward, he is learning. He's only going to get better. He's going to be great. And great play. I think that was the most underrated play. Part of that play, right? Yes, obviously he gets Swayman to bite a little bit, puts a 5-hole, great goal, puts him up 2-0, huge insurance goal. But Nyes being able to make that play so calmly and smoothly, awesome. That was fantastic. So loved that from Nylander. Woll is, hey Shane, how's it going? Shane, longtime viewer. Love to see you back in the chat. Hope you enjoyed the game, Shane. It was fantastic. A little nerve-wracking for the first half. I was a little worried that the Bruins were going to get a little cheap goal and with 2 shots or 3 shots. And that would have been terrible. I was really hoping that didn't happen, and it didn't. So that's great. Just have to keep with it, and I think the Leafs did that, which has been great. And Woll has been a huge part of that. He's been taking sure goals away, which I feel like with Samsonov was not happening. I feel like with Samsonov, he was making routine saves, but then when you needed him to steal a goal, I don't know if that's the way I should word it, but when you needed him to make a save, to take one away, I don't know if he did that at all in this series. And I feel like Woll is doing that, and it is giving them a chance to be able to, although they made this possible. They made their luck possible tonight. They played really well, right? It didn't have too much to do with Woll. It did in the second period as the Bruins started to get momentum, but he did give them a chance, and the Leafs worked for it tonight, so they deserved it. And it was a great win. It was a great team win. They all kind of bought in and got to work there. So that was great. From Shane as well. Marner would excel with big line mates like Nyes, McMahon, Holmberg. They're missing McMahon as well in this series. I thought he was one of the better Leafs the second half of the series. And yes, they're getting it done without him and Matthews, but I feel like he would add a whole other dynamic to this Leafs lineup too, that they are absolutely missing. So I think you're right. I think if he was to play with maybe bigger players, because I think Domi, for as good as he is and how much grit he brings, and I love the fact that he drives the net sometimes, and like I said, he's a playoff performer. He loves the playoffs. He thrives in these scenarios. He is a smaller player, and I feel like if Marner played with Nyes, which he did for a little bit, but Nyes wasn't really going at that time, I feel like Nyes could help him now maybe. But I just don't see them changing the lines because things are rolling now. So unless Matthews comes back, I think that the lines will be what they are, which is fine by me. Nyes has been underrated and clutch. He scored some pretty big goals the last 2 years and been involved in pretty big goals. Obviously, Tavares' goal to send the Lightning home last year. He's been a good player. I thought, and even in his first year, he wasn't over the top spectacular or anything, but he's getting used to the NHL schedule too, because he came from college. College route is a little bit different. The schedule is far different than the NHL. It's not like the OHL where it's gets you a little bit more ready for the NHL. So I think he's been good, and he has performed in the playoffs. He's been fantastic. Thank you everyone for tuning in once again. Leafs win 2-1, I think officially. I'll keep saying that for the rest of the stream. Game 6 over the Boston Bruins. They force a Game 7 back in Boston, which is honestly, it's a nightmare scenario for either team. So they're just going to have to battle it out and see what happens. I think it's going to be very exciting. From Tim, another super chatter, second of the night. Thank you so much, Tim. Let this play for you. Tim says, keep up the good work, Darius and Nick. I enjoy your daily post. Thank you so much, Tim. We put a lot of work into it to deliver the news and what's happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs for everyone on the channel. So if you're new here, also, just a little reminder to hit the subscribe button because you won't miss out on anything Toronto Maple Leafs. We're keeping you locked into the Toronto Maple Leafs. And hopefully the playoff run continues and extends past Saturday night. That would be fantastic. It's in the palm of their hands. It'd be awesome. To go back a little bit, let's go Leafs, end the curse. I think it might happen this year. I had a good feeling about the Leafs heading into this playoff series. Heading in. After Game 4, that might have changed. But I had this gut feeling where I was like, I think it gets done this year. I'm not saying Stanley Cup. I'm just saying I feel like the Bruins thing, we finally get over that. But we'll have to see. That would be, I'm being hopeful. But from Shane, sorry, I'll go back. Shane, I'll get to your question in a second. Thank you all for watching and sending in questions and your thoughts as well. I'll be sure to get to it at some point. We'll work our way through here. Great conversation going on here. If Matthews isn't 100%, sorry, I'll get to that in a second. What do you think of Robertson's play in this series? I thought he's been pretty good. I feel like he's played nervous at some points too. Like tonight, he had a great opportunity to shoot, and it kind of bobbled it a little bit. But I thought he's played better, and he's simplifying his game. I think in the regular season, he was trying a little bit too much, and it was really exposing how not great he is in the neutral zone and the defensive zone. And he was having a real hard time breaking pucks out from the defensive zone. And I feel like he's just really cleaned it up. And I'm not saying he's so much better. I still think he has some flaws in his game at the NHL level in certain areas. But he's really cleaned it up in the sense that he's keeping it simple. And as the series has gone on, I feel like he's keeping his feet moving, like he's forcing guys to dump the puck in instead of carrying it into zone. Really, it's great back pressure to help with the D. So I thought he's actually played good, and that's why he probably stayed in the lineup today over Reeves, let's say, and Gregor gets in as well. So I think Robertson has been good, and I've always been a fan of Robertson, and I think he should stay. I think trading him would be a mistake for the Leafs. I think you can iron out some of the inconsistencies in his game. I think he's a really good player, and I think the scoring will come too. And again, like, I don't know what playoff game number this is for him, but it's got to be still under 10, I think. I could be mistaken, but it's got to be somewhere in that area, right? Like, he played one in the bubble, I think, and then I don't know if he ever got into another one after that, just because of the way the lineup was and how much depth they had. But anyway, if Matthews isn't 100%, let him sit game 7 and run with the current lineup. Now, what is 100%? Because I feel like nobody's 100% right now. But if he is good enough to play, I feel like I think you have to play him if he's good enough to play. But if it's still like he's iffy and there could be attention drawn away in certain areas and maybe you're wasting a roster spot, I do think that you should keep him out of the lineup because they have been playing well without him. They've been on a little bit of a roll without him. Not that, that has anything to do with anything. He's still a great player and they would need him. But I do think, I think it's iffy. I don't think he's going to be available. So I feel like that'll just make the decision easy for everyone. That's really easy. Thank you everyone for tuning in and watching again. Leafs win game 6 and force a game 7. It's going to be fun on Saturday night, or it's going to be an absolute disaster. Either way, it'll be fun. And that's what matters as Leaf fans, I guess. But no, we want to win. We want to win. I really want this series win. I think it'd be so much fun. And the series the whole time, I really respect the Bruins and like their fans and stuff. And obviously you can go back and forth and banter. But every time the series are very entertaining. Obviously they go get 7 games. They're always entertaining. And you're getting your entertainment value. Something always happens. The only thing that hasn't happened so far this year is the Leafs' yearly suspension in the playoffs. So hopefully it doesn't come in game 7. Hopefully they're saving it for the 2nd or 3rd round. But that is the only thing that has not happened so far this year, their yearly suspension in the playoffs. And if y'all want to take a guess at who it's going to be this year, be my guest. I guess McCabe at the beginning of the playoffs. But anyway, I just thought that was funny that it hasn't come yet. But hopefully it doesn't come. That'd be great. Looking like the Leafs play a better team game without Matthews. I think there is some truth to that, I should say. But I wouldn't keep him out of the lineup. I think their mindset around Matthews has to change, if that makes sense. Like, stop funneling every puck to him. Just play, right? And I feel like there were times where somebody wasn't feeling that confidence, and they're like, oh, I can't shoot this. I have to kick it out to Matthews or something. And then he's covered by 2 guys because obviously he's Austin Matthews. So I feel like their mindset around him in the game has to kind of change, if that makes sense. But I don't think they're a better team without him. I think they are a better team with him for sure, 100%. But yes, I would love for him to be back, but hopefully he's back in the 2nd round. We'll see what Saturday brings, but it doesn't look like he will be available just on the language they've been using. So we'll see. Hopefully it's nothing serious that'll keep him out long term. But we'll just have to see with that. From Paul again, I miss McMahon. I wish he'd come back. I thought McMahon was one of the best Leafs in the second half of the season. I thought he was great, the way he uses his body too to drive the net. He's really missing on like that second line. Really missing. I know Nyes has come alive in this playoff series in the last 2 games, but they're absolutely missing him. I think he would be a difference maker in some way. I'm not saying he would score like 5 goals in the series or anything, but I think he would be a little bit of a difference maker for sure. So they are missing him. Hopefully he'll be back in the second round too, because I haven't heard anything about him skating even. So if he's not skating, I have a hard time believing he's going to just jump back into his skates and play a game 7. I have a hard time believing that, especially with the way the Leafs are going. So it'd be great if he were to come back in the second round. Marner has a high ankle sprain. Give him a break. I think there is truth to that, but I just think he's so good that we've seen phases of his career that are so good that I don't know how bad that high ankle sprain was. And we saw with Liljegren too, and on Joseph Woll, like a couple of them this year. It really does affect you. It is true. But again, I just feel like if you're on the lineup, you have to play, right? So I think you're open to criticism if you're in the lineup and you're not playing well, or to your, how we know you to play. If you aren't playing to that level, then I think you're a little bit open to criticism, that is. But he is a very important forward. Great on the penalty kill too. Like, a lot of people don't talk about that. But again, I just feel like we'll save that for the offseason. Because we're going to game 7. It's fine. So, but he is an absolutely important part of this team. I do agree. He is in certain ways. So, but yeah, he is our best PK guy. That's right, Shane. He absolutely is. He is. He's very smart. He's a very smart hockey player. That is one thing I will say about Mitch Marner. Like, very smart. But when the ice kind of shrinks and time and space go away, he has to find it offensively. That's what I'm trying to say in my criticism of Mitch Marner. He has to find different ways offensively in the playoffs. I just don't know if he's found that at a consistent level yet throughout these, how many ever playoff series, 8 playoff series that they've played as a team. If Matthews comes back, they have to play the same game. Don't change their intensity. I think that's really what it is. I don't think it's messing with the lineup. Bring the intensity that you brought the last 2 games. If they brought that all series, it could be a very different story right now. Maybe the series is over, right? You have to bring the intensity, and you have to start on time. They've started on time the last 2 games, and it's made the world's a difference, right? The Bruins had 1 shot up until 10 minutes in the second period, I think, tonight. Ridiculous, right? You do have to keep your foot on the gas. So I think they have to continue to play with intensity, but I just don't know if like inserting Matthews into the lineup would like change things so much. But again, I don't think he's going to be available, but we'll see. Anything at this point is speculation. So that'll be great. Oh, you know what? Yes, great point. He was skating with Austin Matthews this morning. That is Bobby McMahon. Great point. I did see that. I completely forgot about that. Thank you for that. That's a great point. He was skating this morning, so maybe he is nearing a return. I'm not sure it'll be a game 7, but it would be soon if they were to move on to the second round, which is good. Which is great. Thank you, everyone, for watching so far. It's been fantastic. Great conversation going on. Please send any of your thoughts and questions in the chat. I'll be sure to get to them at some point. The Leafs win game 6, 2-1. Same score as 2013. And we know how that one ended, so hopefully this one ends it a little bit different. Trade him to Buffalo for Dylan Cousins. I don't know. I don't know if that's you know what? We'll save that for the offseason. I'm not sure that works out logistically, but I'm not sure that's a great trade. But yeah, I think to go back to Woll, he's been fantastic, very poised in the net, and he's been great. I mean, what can you say about Joseph Woll? He is the reason, and I feel bad for him tonight, honestly, because he should have had the shutout. And it was a 2-1 final. They scored with literally 0.1 seconds left. That is so unlucky. He should have had the shutout. But at the end of the day, when you look at playoff stats, you know, it doesn't matter. Shutouts, I feel like, don't matter. Like, you just want to win the series. You want to win the games. It doesn't matter what the score is. Just win. Just win. Doesn't matter how many things you string together. It really does not matter. Shane says, I honestly don't want Matthews or McMahon in the Game 7 lineup unless they are literally 100%. Save them for Game 1 against Florida. Shane, I'm not sure if I would agree with you 100%, but I will say if they aren't good enough to go, if it's a maybe, right? Especially McMahon, because he only just started skating, right? Matthews at least played in this series, and he's recovering from something. But if they aren't absolutely ready to go, don't put them in. You're taking a roster spot away from somebody who can go 100%, right? So I will agree with you in that way, but I think if Matthews can go, you have to put Matthews in the lineup. I think it would be crazy. Like, if you lose game 7 and you find out Matthews was okay to go, Keith, I don't know, he could get fired just for that decision, honestly. Like, it's crazy. So, yeah, it would be great. I think Samsonov is okay. I just wonder if he's played. Here's a question for the chat that I'll put in there. Has Samsonov, barring an injury, played his last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf? I think there's a real possibility that Game 4 was Samsonov's last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf. Because Joseph Woll, you know, if it wasn't for his injury earlier in the year, I think he was kind of penciled in as the guy, the starting goaltender, right? And he got injured. Things kind of changed. Samsonov started playing a little bit better. And then now it's kind of flipped on its head again, and Samsonov's going to want more money. I wonder if he's played his last game as a Toronto Maple Leafs. I wonder. And you got Hildeby coming up as well. I think that's a real possibility that Samsonov will be no more. I'm a huge fan of Hildeby, by the way. I think he's going to be fantastic. But you have to give him time to kind of, marinate in the AHL. Just kind of get used to the pro game. And it's different in the AHL as well. So once he comes up to the NHL, he'll have to get used to that too. But he was brilliant for the Marlies. I'm a huge fan of Hildeby. And yeah, I think he'll be the guy next. But I wonder if Samsonov has played his last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf. From Shane again, and I'll get to some other questions and thoughts in a second. Matthews can be 80% and McMahon has to be 100%. He's cold missing a month. Totally agree on that. I think Matthews can kind of come back a little bit more easier because he's played in this series and he knows the flow of the series, if that makes sense. So I think he can easily get back in here. McMahon hasn't played since, I don't even remember his last game. I think it was against Washington. Can't remember exactly. Or New Jersey, maybe. It's been a while. I think it dates back to March. So to throw him into a game 7 would be insane. But I think he could see the ice if they make it round 2. So that would be great. From Archie, they should start Samsonov game 7. Who agrees? Not me. And probably not anyone else. This is Woll's net. This is absolutely the brick Woll's net. This is it. So it's different when you know you'll get a timely save. That's exactly it. What I was talking about earlier. Samsonov makes routine saves, and then sometimes he'll let in a goal that you wish you got back. Woll will make saves that should be goals, and he's giving you an opportunity to win. And I think it radiates throughout the team, right? The patience that he shows in net, how patient, the way he's tracking pucks. If you really look at him through traffic, it's really crazy, the difference, the contrast between him and some other goalies. But it radiates through the team. I think the team plays more calm. Obviously, they were blocking shots tonight. That's fantastic as well. But I think they play better with Woll in net. I just think they do. They play more calm. They play more confident. I love it. So this is great. Unless Woll, yes, from Paul, unless Woll stinks out the joint, Samsonov is dying. There's no indication that will happen. Woll is calm and isn't flopping all over the place. Yes, I liken Samsonov's game to Curtis Joseph, but in this era. And it just doesn't work in this era anymore, where you're just flopping all over the place. Minus making the saves, right? For Samsonov, that is. But I liken his game to that a little bit, where he's just all over the place, and it's very anxiety-inducing to watch him play. But with Woll, you feel this confidence and this calmness. And I'm telling you, it goes through the team. The team feels it as well, and they play with this newfound confidence, and that's why they're able to win these games. It's a mixture of everything going right for the Leafs right now. Blake with the super chat once more. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Blake Sim. You've been great. Thanks for joining the stream again. You've been in like every single stream. Same with Shane. Thank you guys so much. You guys are real ones. Thank you. I like Benoit's game tonight. We need a Benoit train. And what is your prediction for game 7? And everyone hit the subscribe button. Go Leafs go. Thank you so much, Blake. Everyone listen to Blake. All right. He knows what he's talking about. Blake knows what he's talking about. And I'll hit it in a second. I want to bring this up. And I talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream. If you take a look here, Benoit with 9 hits tonight led the way for the Leafs. And I mean, Tavares too with 7. Fantastic. But love that from Simone Benoit. We've been on the Simone Benoit train all season. It officially left the station a long time ago, so I feel bad for you if you weren't on the Simone Benoit train. We told you to get on. Should have got on. He's been great. Love his game. Totally agree with you, Blake. Loved his game tonight, and he was a beast. He was really, like Paul said, yes, he was a beast tonight. He really took it to Pasternak. He was giving him no space. I loved it, and he was really closing him off. It was fantastic. But yeah, like Benoit, to think what he was when he came in to what he is now, it's crazy to wrap your head around, really. He's been amazing. He has been amazing. And they have him locked up for another 3 years, I believe. So great. And really no cap hit too. And the cap's going to go up. So awesome. Awesome. I love it. One more time. Simone Benoit train. Come on. You got to love it. You got to love it. Simone Benoit. Yes. He was fantastic. I love Simone Benoit. I love his game. So they are also, sorry, what is this? They can also dial in on offense with Woll and net. They're not worried about giving up an odd man rush because they'll get the save. It's compounding. Exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you, Andrew. That you put that into words very beautifully. Thank you for that. That's exactly it. It's all starting to come together for them, right? And I'm telling you, hockey in the playoffs goes through your goaltender. It really does. And everyone, I made the comparison the other night to Darcy Kemper winning the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. But that was a really, really good team. But again, he had this kind of confidence, this patience for them, right? That kind of, maybe he's not the best goaltender in the world, but he offered that to them at that time, and they won the Stanley Cup. So I'm telling you, in the playoffs, it absolutely goes through your goaltender. When you can play with that much patience and poise in the net, like Woll shows, the rest of the team is going to carry you. It's going to happen. They're going to play with newfound confidence. I'm telling you, and they found it. They found it. So all aboard the Benoit train. I love it, guys. It's fantastic. Will you still be aboard if they lose? So I don't know if you know this, Alan, but being a fan, right? So yes, absolutely. If you're a fan of anything, yeah, that's how that works. So yes, I would absolutely be aboard if they lose. I love Simone Benoit, and he's been great for the Leafs. And I think the Leafs have been great the last 2 games. So hopefully they can keep it rolling into Game 7. That would be great. Which team is playing against Boston or Toronto? Archie, if it goes to round 2, the winner will play the Florida Panthers, who beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in, I believe it was 5 games. So they will play the Florida Panthers again. Either team is going to play the Florida Panthers for the 2nd year in a row. So I think that's an interesting storyline either way. But it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. Come on. They're finally going to slay the dragon. There's no better opportunity than this for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's going to be hilarious. So from Andrew, first, rooting for the Leafs from Chile. Shout out to you. That is fantastic. Awesome. We love that. How about Edmondson? Not sure what you meant about that, Terry, but I love Edmondson as well. Unfortunately, I don't have... There is no train for Edmondson. He's new. We don't have a train for him. Maybe we'll make an Edmondson bus or something. Or we'll figure it out. But I love Edmondson's game as well. I think they absolutely need more guys like that. But I think they need puck movers too. Leafs don't really have offense from the back end too. I think that's something they've kind of forgotten about when they were building this back end, this makeshift back end for this playoff run. So they have to look into that next year too. So, well, yeah, So I love Edmondson. So from Andrew, does Revo play in Game 7? No, he doesn't, because of what happened tonight. I talked about it in a previous video where I said, I wonder if Keefe looks at taking out Reeves because the series is getting tighter and faster. And I feel like you can't rely on Reeves late in the 3rd period or even in the 3rd period in general. So you kind of have to take him out because I feel like the team, like the fighting thing, I feel like that's not going to happen in Game 7. Because it's going to be so tight and both teams want to win. So I feel like that's not going to happen. He's not going to have to be there. So I don't think he comes back in the Game 7. They played great without him tonight. Love him as a part of the team. I think if they make round 2, he would be back in the lineup. But I don't think him in Game 7 makes sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I just don't think it makes sense. So that's my thoughts on that. I already said yesterday, I think it was a video we did yesterday, Nick and I said I wonder if Keefe looks at that. He ended up doing it tonight. A little bit of a curveball. I was really skeptical about Noah Gregor, but I thought he played well. He threw a couple hits, and I thought he had a good game. So I don't think, Archie, I don't think Revo should play. Gregor did look good tonight. And again, it's just Gregor has the speed, and it's not only just about Gregor, but like anybody else has speed over Reeves. And the Reeves thing, you can't trust him in certain situations. And I feel like the 4th line would be more trustworthy with somebody like Gregor on it, let's say, who can just blow the puck out of the zone on his own. We saw it one time tonight. So, yeah, it's been great. Yeah, they took out Brody and Giordano. Yeah, Brody's had a tough season, and honestly, like I'm not here to dump on him or whatever, and I'm not saying like Game 4 was his fault, nothing like that. But I just don't think he can be in the lineup. I think the defense that they have playing right now is the best 6 defensemen that the Leafs have at this moment, and that's why they're playing. From Shane, even if the Leafs get smoked 5-0, I'll be here in October cheering for a new year. Fan equals fanatic, meaning we aren't rational. That's exactly it. We'll be back. I say it every year, or I don't say it. I say it in my head. I'm like, why do I do this to myself every time they lose? And I'm like, you know what? Because I love it. I love it. And that's why all of you are watching this. And that's why we're all cheering for the Leafs, because we love it. And that's just the way it is. And nothing's going to change that. So love it. And you know what, though? I will be sad if the Leafs get smoked 5-0. That would not be great. You shouldn't have put that out there, Shane. You shouldn't have put that out there. I don't like that number. Let's reverse that. It should be 5-0 Leafs. I have a good feeling about Saturday. I think it's going to be good. If it wasn't for the Nylander goal, the Leafs would be playing OT. You know what? No, it doesn't. Playoffs don't work like that, unfortunately. They won the game. So they won 2-1. From Terry, has Gio played his last game? Here's the interesting thing about that, because we're all thinking, yes, that's probably the case. But if the Leafs make the second round, anything's possible. Maybe even go to the third round, let's say. But again, hypotheticals. Injuries will happen. It's just inevitable. We see it throughout the playoffs in different teams every year. There's a chance he gets in. So I cannot say he's played his last game. But if you're asking in terms of skill and if everyone was healthy, yes, he's probably played his last game. And if the Leafs were to get eliminated on Saturday night, then yes, I think he's played his last game. But I love Gio, and I think he added something great to the Leafs team, and I'm sure he's a great morale boost, and he's around the team. I'm sure all the scratches are, right? And they're practicing every morning, so that's great. Reeves would have been sick. He's just in the playoffs 15 years ago. No, I think Reeves absolutely has use right now. He absolutely does. You saw it earlier in the season. In the series and the second half of the season, he absolutely has use. But I think as the games tighten up, like tonight, for example, a Game 6 and a Game 7, where the Bruins are in the situation they're in, and the Leafs have to really put guys that they trust on the ice, the games tighten up. And there's going to be none of the fighting stuff. There might be pushing and shoving like we saw today. But especially in a Game 7, Reeves cannot play. But I do think Reeves has use. Absolutely, he still has use. So, yes, Shane, we're winning. The Leafs are winning. The Leafs are winning this series. If Matthews is healthy to play Game 7, who is he replacing? You take out Gregor. This is my opinion. You take out Gregor, and you figure out the lines from there. But I think you would have to play with the lines, because I feel like there is something. They haven't scored, but there is something going on with that Marner, Domi, Bertuzzi pairing. Like, they're generating chances. They didn't score again tonight, but they are putting together good minutes, I feel like. And even defensively, like, they weren't horrible. And I feel like Bertuzzi had a couple chances to get the puck out tonight, and he didn't, which I feel like, he probably should. But I feel like there is something to that line. So I wonder if you imagine putting Matthews and Nylander together, but maybe spread out the scoring too. I'm not sure where you put him in. I would really have to look at the lines and put it together. But that's kind of out of sight, out of mind for me, because it just sounds like he's not going to be available. And yeah, that's not a knock against Gregor, but I think if Matthews comes back, Gregor is the odd man out, just because he hasn't played that much in the series. I think Robertson has been good for what he's done. So, yeah, I think that's the way it is. Labushkin, Edmondson, Benoit, and McCabe are workhorses, and Woll is a star. Absolutely. Something about this Leafs decor, like, they aren't the most talented besides, let's say, Morgan Riley, right? But there's something about them that they just get the job done. And every time we've seen it year in and year out for the Leafs, the defense doesn't get the job done the way they should. And this year, guys like Edmondson, Benoit, like, the way they shut certain players down tonight, it just makes you think like they're just getting the job done. It's a different caliber of hockey. And I love the way they play, and they work hard. I think that's also the other thing you can see. So, yes. Archie, Gregor was awesome. Yeah, I thought he had a great game. But again, if Matthews comes back, I think he's the odd man out, unfortunately. But yes, I do. Yeah. Also, I feel like there's a mental battle between Matthews and Nylander. Don't think they like each other. I'm not sure that's true. I've seen that narrative. I've seen this whole narrative thrown out today too, that like the guys were arguing in hockey is very common. Like, Nathan McKinnon threw a water bottle and fell off a bench and was telling his coach to go F off. a couple years ago, and then they won the Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? Together. So it's super common, and I feel like something like that happening in Game 4 probably brought them closer together and has something to do with the way that they're playing right now. So there is a dynamic in certain dressing rooms. Like, I'm sure not everyone gets along 100%, but I don't think they're at each other's necks or anything like that. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. That's just the vibe I get. I wouldn't say that's true. I don't know. I don't have any insight into that, but I that's not my read on it. But I do think there's a mental battle going on within the series. I feel like the Leafs do have the upper hand in that way right now. The Bruins are certainly feeling like this was last year, and everyone's talking about, yeah, but that's in the past. That's in the past. Everyone brings up the past for the Leafs all the time, so we're going to bring up the past for the Bruins as well. We got to play both sides here, right? So it's we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be a fun Game 7 Saturday night. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We're gonna wrap it up here very, very shortly, but thank you. Really appreciate all the super chats tonight as well, all the donations, everyone sending in your questions and your thoughts. Anything else, throw it in here. I'll be sure to get to it before we wrap up the stream. We'll wrap up in about 5 minutes, but the Leafs win Game 6, a huge Game 6 win against the Boston Bruins. It's gonna be a fun Game 7 on Saturday night, or it could be an absolute disaster. We'll just have to see how that goes. But yes, Corey, I did notice the 2 Oiler fans waving the flags in Maple Leaf Square. I feel like, I don't know, like I don't pay too much mind to that, because I'm just like, okay, that's obviously somebody just wanting to get the experience of Maple Leaf Square, and then obviously just trying to be difficult and get on TV with Oiler stuff to be like, hey, you know, whatever, the Leafs, right? So I don't know, I don't pay too much mind to that stuff, but I thought that was funny. I did notice that as well, so thank you for bringing that up. I rock my 28 jersey. Domi would be proud. He crushed it in Dallas. Absolutely. Domi played really well last year. That's why I was excited about them signing Domi this year, and I thought he's played pretty well in this playoff series. The 1 goal he scored earlier in the series in Game 2, huge difference maker. So, yeah. What's wrong with Austin Matthews, number 34? We don't know. And if I did, I'd be sure to tell you. I'd be the first one to tell you. But anyway. Nyes is turning into something this year. Yes, I think we're on the cusp of something with Nyes. I think he's going to figure it out. And once he gets another full NHL season under his belt, I think he's only going to get better. So it's going to be fun. Shane, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Saturday night for a big Leafs win in Game 7. It's going to be exciting to do some content around that. And we'll keep you all posted on everything that happens with the Leafs tomorrow before Game 7 and Saturday before Game 7 as well. So that's going to be great. Have yourself a good night, Shane. Thank you so much. And Blake with another super chat. Let's go. Thank you, Blake. Really, really appreciate the donations tonight, guys. This has been fantastic. Really, really appreciate it. And Blake, I can't believe Woll didn't get a shutout. That was so heartbreaking at the end. I know when you really look at it, like, shutouts don't really matter in the playoffs. You just want the win, right? And I'm sure he would tell you that himself. And I'm sure after we are done here, I will look at the quotes from after the game, and he'll probably have said something like that. But that was super heartbreaking. 0.1 seconds left, and you get your shutout broken. He was fantastic, man. Thank you, Archie. Darius is goated. More fun watching this dude discuss the Leafs. Thank you so much. We're doing this. We do this all the time. We'll be here. We're streaming after games. Hopefully, we'll stream after round 2 games if the Leafs win. When the Leafs win Game 7, and we have content going up every day with multiple videos a day now. Loving it. The Leafs in the playoffs. No better time. We love it. Does Matthews play Game 7 from Jordan? Depends on his availability. I don't believe he'll be available. That's just my kind of. Just because of the language they've been using. That's kind of my read on the situation. I don't think he's going to be available. But again, I don't know, they've been playing well without him, but he's a battler. I feel like he's going to want to get in there. So we'll just have to see. But if it's bad enough, if he's held out of Game 7, that really tells you how bad it is. Like, that's a significant injury, whatever he's dealing with. So if he doesn't play Game 7, we'll just have to wait and see. Let's conquer the Bruins. Should we go then and play the Panthers? Yes. Hopefully we play the Panthers again, and hopefully you can rewrite history here if you're the Leafs. You can absolutely do it right here, so it's going to be fun, and we'll just see what happens. We'll wrap up here in a few minutes, and I'll just give my closing thoughts on the game as well and heading into Game 7, I guess, now. But any last questions or thoughts, throw them in the chat. I'll get to them before I wrap up here. But again, I feel really, really good about the Leafs right now. I thought they played a very hardworking and good Game 5, And I thought they played a really, really tidy game in game 6. And I think I had a lot to do with Joseph Woll. And I think I had a lot to do with their start and the intensity and the crowd. The crowd was great tonight too. If you were there, shout out to you, because it was shout out to the crowd. Like, they were electric. So awesome. Bruins Digest in the chat. Darius, I can't believe this is happening again. It's happening again. Believe it. Believe it. Belief. It's actually happened. There's no other way this could have happened, right? By the way, can we just get an overall agreement on that? There's no other way this series could have ended other than 7 games in Boston. It just nobody would. It wouldn't allow for it. It would not allow for it. This is the way it had to happen, and I think that's exciting. I think it's exciting. So, will the Leafs, from Mark, will the Leafs finally score a power play goal in Game 7? Yes. They will score 1 power play goal. There, I'll give you 1 power play goal in the series. Or 2, sorry, at that point. But do you think the Leafs play better with no Matthews? I think they've upped their intensity because they've had to without Matthews and because their backs are against the wall. So I think they've played great without him, but I wouldn't say they're a better team without him. I wouldn't say they need him, but I think they're a very good team with him. So, yeah, I think he's played really great. But yeah, Bruins Digest, thanks for checking in. It would be great if the Leafs won a Game 7. It would be great. But we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure we'll have some sort of content to go with Game 7. We're going to have a couple videos for you tomorrow. We'll have probably a video pregame on Saturday, and we'll have some sort of content after Game 7, whether it's me crying live on stream. If you guys want to watch that could be happening. Perhaps it's happy tears coming out with a Game 7 win. So either way, it could happen. And before we wrap up too, for those of you who've been watching every stream, and a couple of you are here in the chat box now, I was wearing earlier in the series these sunglasses, right? And the hat. I had the whole get up, right? I was doing it for the stream. They have stayed off, all right? And the reason being is because the last stream I did with them on, the Leafs ended up losing. So I took them off after Game 4. After we did the stream in Game 4, the Leafs win Game 5. Kept them off. Kept it classy, all right? Heading into Game 6, they won again. So we're keeping it classy. The glasses are off. The hat is aside. The glasses are off, and we're heading to Game 7 in Boston. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be really exciting. And yes, I will tell Nick what's up. Thank you so much for watching, Shane and everyone else. It's been a great stream. We love it. And it's going to be a fun. The Leafs going into Boston Saturday night. Enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. I've been saying it ever since the playoffs started. The Leafs are going to take you on a ride. It happens every year. Enjoy the ride for what it is. Game 7 on Saturday. The Leafs know what they have to do. They've been in the situation before. Tavares, the captain, has talked about these lessons that they have to learn. Go out and take it from the Bruins. You have it right here. There's no other situation this series could have ended in than the Leafs coming back from 3-1 like they have twice before and finally slaying the Dragon in Game 7 in TD Garden. There's absolutely no other way that this series could have ended. So it's going to be very, very exciting. It's going to be fun. Enjoy Game 7, everyone.